We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. What if I told you that some of the worst things we go through are things that never happen? Think about the last time you laid awake at night worrying about something. Maybe it was a meeting at work, a tough conversation with a friend, or that phone call you didn't want to make. You probably played it out in your head 100 different ways, and in every version, something went wrong. But then the real moment came. And 9 times out of 10, it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought. In fact, it was manageable, sometimes even easy. And sometimes the event never even comes, yet we suffered as if it did. That's exactly what Seneca was talking about when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Here's what he meant. Our minds are incredibly good at inventing pain. We don't just deal with today's challenges. We add extra weight by imagining everything that might go wrong tomorrow. It's like carrying 3 backpacks when you only needed 1. There's the weight of the actual problem. Then the weight of what we think might happen. And finally, the weight of how we'll feel if that worst-case scenario does happen. No wonder life feels heavy sometimes. You see this everywhere. At work, you dread that presentation for a whole week. And then when you finally give it, you realize most people were barely paying attention. In relationships, you rehearse an argument in your head, bracing for the worst, but when you finally talk it out, it goes smoother than expected. Or you feel a strange ache in your body, and after a few minutes on Google, you're convinced it's something catastrophic, only to find out later it was just stress. Oftentimes, these imaginations involve inventing what we think other people are thinking. Most of the suffering isn't in reality. It's in the way we imagine reality. The Stoics actually had practices to deal with this. One of them was called premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils. The idea wasn't to be gloomy, it was to be prepared. You imagine what might go wrong so you're not blindsided. Let's say you're about to pitch an idea at work. You imagine it might flop. Then what? You'd regroup, learn something, and try again. By calmly rehearsing that outcome, you shrink its power over you. The important thing to remember is this is to be done with intention. Rather than letting your imagination run wild with all sorts of disaster scenarios, you are in charge of the action. You set the stage and troubleshoot the outcomes. You are the director of these scenes. You are in control. Another tool is what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. Basically, you divide every situation into 2 piles, what you can control and what you can't. You can't control the outcome of the meeting, but you can control how prepared you are. You can't control how other people react, but you can control your words, your tone, and your effort. When you stop trying to control everything, you stop drowning in worry. There's also negative visualization. That means briefly imagining losing something you love, not to make yourself sad, but to make you grateful. Picture life without your health, your family, or even your morning coffee. Then come back to the present moment and realize you still have it. That fear of loss turns into appreciation for what you already enjoy. Again, this is with intention. Don't ruminate on these things that haven't happened, but intentionally consider and examine them. Become aware of the emotions it brings up with the understanding that emotions aren't facts, they just are. So the next time you feel yourself spiraling into worry, pause and ask, is this real or is it imagined? Am I carrying 1 backpack or 3? And which parts of this situation are actually under my control? If you are struggling with pulling yourself out of rumination, try this exercise. Imagine there is a massive stop sign that comes into view, blocking the scene your mind is obsessing over. In your mind, imagine the stop sign and say the word stop with authority to yourself. Don't beat yourself up or even examine the fact you were ruminating. Just work on interrupting the cycle so that you can work on setting the stage for your intentional imaginations. Most of the time, you'll find the suffering is coming from your imagination, not reality. And that's something you can put down. Seneca wasn't saying life is easy. He was saying don't double your suffering. Life will give you enough challenges as it is. Don't let your imagination add interest on pain you may never owe. So if you're someone who tends to overthink, and honestly most of us do, remember this. Your imagination can either be your prison or your freedom. Use it to prepare, use it to be grateful, but don't use it to torture yourself. Because when you step back, reality is almost always easier to handle than the story you told yourself about it.